Good evening, welcome. We're here at the Old Cathedral Rectory. The three of us are living here together. Tonight we just wanted to take some time to introduce our two seminarians a little bit. You've seen them obviously at our masses and some of our prayer services. So they both moved in here last week, almost been 2 weeks now, because they had to get out of the seminary due to the pandemic that's going on. Everybody kind of had to go their own way, so we were very blessed to have these two young men come and join us at our parish, and I hope that once we get back to Mass together, you all get a chance to get to know them as well. So we're just going to take a few moments at the beginning here tonight and let them kind of introduce themselves and talk a little bit about where they're from, and then we will get into some specifics. If somebody wants to ask a question, you can try to do that. I'm not very good at all this stuff, but you can possibly do that, and I'm going to watch and see if anyone submits any questions tonight. If not, we'll have other times to check in with these two, and we hope to have some different presentations throughout the week, and for that matter, throughout the time that they're here with us. So first I'd like to introduce Nicholas Sellers, and going to have him share a little bit about himself and his life, if you would.
Yeah, so as Father said, my name is Nicholas, and I grew up just outside of Fort Branch, just on the other side of 41, and grew up with 4 other brothers. There's five boys. Both my parents were both college athletes, so we had a blast growing up. I grew up out there on a 5-acre yard, and we were constantly playing sports and things like that. My older brother was really big into theater, so he also had us doing a lot of different shows and always using our imagination. So it was a blast growing up with all my brothers and my parents. And I went to Holy Cross Catholic Church and school. Went there K through 5, and that was a real blessing. And then I went to the middle school there in Fort Branch, and then on to high school. Went to Gibson Southern High School, and that was a great experience. A lot of great people out there. And then from right out of high school, Tyler and I, we both went right out of high school into the seminary. And so the past 4 years we've been Simon Brute College Seminary in Indianapolis.
Thank you. Next we have Tyler Underhill. He's going to share a little bit about himself.
Yeah, as Father said, my name's Tyler. I'm from Washington, Indiana. I grew up there and went to school, Veal Elementary School, and then Washington Catholic High School. I'm the oldest of 4. I have 3 younger siblings. One is 19, he's at IU, and the other 2 are 17, and they're in high school right now. They're twins, boy and girl. Growing up, I enjoyed being outdoors. I love mowing grass. That's one thing I'm going to be doing around here, I guess, a lot. But it was in high school when I kind of it was a lot younger than that when I had thoughts about being a priest. But in high school, I was really enjoyed serving Mass and being around my former pastor, really, Father Gordon Mann, who's since passed. And as soon as I was able to, I applied to the seminary, and like Nick said, we both entered freshman year. And we both had the surprise of not being able to finish out the school year there in Indianapolis. But we were very thankful to find out we were coming here to Vincennes to kind of finish school online, and then eventually move into theology next year. So,
Yeah, we hope to talk a little bit more about that in some of our subsequent outings here together, a little bit more about seminary life. And a lot of people ask questions about that, and a lot of people really are kind of unaware of what that's like and what that journey consists of. So we'll save some of that for another time. First, this is kind of more informal and really a little fun that we're going to have tonight. We could all use a little fun. Hopefully all of you at home can enjoy this, even the kids. I hope some of the kids will have a chance to watch this and get to know these two young guys before too long. Hopefully they'll be back and serving Mass with them and things. So we just came up with a couple fun questions that I'm going to ask them to respond to, and like I said, just have a good time here tonight. So the first one is ask each of you what your favorite movie is.
Sure. Hands down, Lord of the Rings. Specifically, The Return of the King. Love Lord of the Rings. Favorite movie.
That's pretty good. This is, I guess, this is stereotypical for a seminarian, but The Passion of the Christ it's an amazing movie. Great time of year to watch that. But if I wasn't saying that, growing up, me and my brothers, we loved watching Rudy, the movie about the Notre Dame football player. We would watch Rudy almost every morning. We just loved it. But then I'd also say another movie that's really kind of grown on me in the past few years. I don't know if you ever heard of Cinderella Man, but it's one of my all-time favorites. It's about, I won't tell you the whole plot, but it's basically about a real successful boxer who kind of gets towards the end of his career and is no longer having success, and then all of a sudden the Great Depression hits, and it's him trying to battle with his boxing career and then persevering, trying to take care of his family during the Great Depression. It's just that whole struggle, and it's an amazing witness to I think what it means to persevere and what it means to be a father and to really to fight for those you love. So I really love that one.
Great. We've been watching a few movies together since these guys have been here. I've probably watched more movies than I have in years, and because we have a little time in the evenings, so we've enjoyed that. The next question is, who is your favorite saint?
My favorite saint is Saint Joseph, foster father of Jesus. He was a saint I picked as my confirmation saint, my saint name. I look at Saint Joseph as a model, a father figure and leader of the Holy Family, and as a man who lived with two people who were sinless, the Blessed Virgin and Jesus. How much, I wouldn't say struggle, but how difficult that might be for someone like Joseph, living with two people, with God himself and his Blessed Mother. So St. Joseph is my favorite saint.
Not to interrupt on that, but in fact I showed this book to Nick. There's a great book about the consecration of St. Joseph. What's the title of that? 33 Days, I think, to Glory.
Mm-hmm.
But you should look that up. It's a fantastic book about St. Joseph, where you can learn all these things about his life that you would have no idea about. Most people say that, don't know anything about St. Joseph. Well, this priest, Father Don Calloway, has done an incredible job of digging into the life of St. Joseph, all these different facts about him, the things that he did in his life. So check that out. It was really, really powerful.
The saint that I've always been attracted to is Pope John Paul II. And he's just recently became a saint. He's actually my confirmation sponsor. And right when he was canonized as saint, it was like the same year that I had my confirmation, so it just lined up perfectly for him to be my confirmation saint. And my first memory of John Paul II, I was born in 97, and Pope John Paul II died in 2005. And my first memory is, it was 2005, and it was just when he had passed away. And I just remember us watching the news, and I remember seeing people just cry and weep because of this man that they loved so much, and that they knew that loved the Lord so much, and was such just an amazing shepherd for the Catholic Church. And so my first memory of him was, seeing people weep from him passing away. And then, as I continued to grow up, and I continued to study his life, I just absolutely was completely inspired by the way he carried himself and the way he lived his life and the way he was absolutely devoted to our Lord and to loving people. He was born in 1920, and he was in Poland, one of the worst places during World War II. And actually, he has a quote where he says, "At the age of 20, I've lost everyone that I love." And his parents, his brothers and sister had all passed away when he was 20 years old. But as I've heard another person said, out of darkness, great saints can be chiseled. And I think that definitely is a witness of John Paul II, who, out of the great darkness of what happened during World War II in Poland, he didn't use it as a reason to get down or to get mad at God or to get mad at the world. He used, all those things to rise out of the darkness and be, a light to the world, to be a witness of love in the midst of all that. And I'm just continually amazed when I study his life at how he's able to persevere, and I can't help but be inspired by his life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The next question is a good one. We thought just to share a little bit about that, and that would be, what inspired you to enter the seminary and to discern the priesthood? So maybe you guys could just touch on that a little bit, if you don't mind.
For myself, when I started serving Mass on a regular basis, kind of shadowing in a sense, Father Gordon, and seeing the sacraments up close, seeing the example of my pastor, and how he led and how he was a holy priest. That was one of the first big inspirations for me, and really having a personal prayer life set aside. But something about being drawn to, especially the Eucharist and confession, being able to bring those sacraments to people, and just seeing the effects that they have on people. That's the biggest draw for me to enter seminary.
Yeah. As many of you might know, Father Tony was my pastor growing up, so it was all Father Tony. He was it. That was the inspiration. No, there's more than that.
Yeah,
no, Father Tony was an amazing witness, and I'm very grateful for his inspiration to me as what a priest, modeling what a priest should look like. So Father Tony was certainly an inspiration, but there's always so much more to our vocation story. And for me, it was definitely, as I was expressing, my inspiration in John Paul II and so many other saints. I was just, growing up, I really just, had that longing like everybody has for meaning, trying to figure out your purpose, what are you going to do with your life? And I had that longing to do something great with my life, just like, everybody should have. And, early on, I thought that was like, sports and football, and my parents were college athletes, and I thought, that's what I would do. I would just kind of follow in their footsteps and, try to pursue athletics and go as far as I could. But as I continued to study the lives of the saints, I was just continually inspired by, their life just seemed so much more heroic than, pursuing sports in that way. Nothing against sports. Sports are absolutely amazing, and they're a great way to teach us about so many things in life, and you can do a lot of good things with sports. But I just continue to be drawn to the saints, and it was, kind of in this middle school age that I was kind of wrestling back and forth with all this, and that was kind of the first time when I kind of felt that tug and call towards possibly giving my life as a priest. I was actually at a retreat, Sources Summit, that our Diocese of Evansville puts on every year, and I remember we were in Eucharistic adoration, and I just remember, just feeling this great call from the Lord there, looking at him in the Eucharist, and he him being fully present there, and I just felt like him say, give me your life. And I remember kind of looking around at all the priests that were there and the religious sisters, and just thinking, wow, these people have completely devoted their life to something, and I just found it incredibly beautiful, and I thought, maybe I could do that. And from that time on, just continued to study the lives of saints and just continually being inspired. And when I got to my senior year of high school, it was just I had to go figure out if this was what I was called towards, and just continuing to find the beauty and potentially being called to live out a life of celibacy, and the beauties that can be found in that, and then that call to spiritual fatherhood and what that means. And maybe in a later time we can kind of get into what why a priest is called out to live out those things, and that those things have just continue to inspire me and continue to have this longing in me to look into and discern is this what the Lord is calling me to do with my life.
Great, thank you. Another question, again, this is kind of a fun question, a human question, I guess. It's nice to know the humanity of guys, and sometimes we don't get to know that really. So this question is, what do you like to do in your spare time, or any hobbies that you might have?
That's it.
I like to go to the movies. I love to go out to eat. And I do enjoy yard work.
Yeah, around Cardinal, our facilities man around here is already putting Tyler to work, and I'm sure he'll get Nick in on it too. If they get to stay here long enough, they'll get plenty of yard work in, I'm sure. Or if anyone else needs them out there, you just know who to call. These guys. Yeah.
That's fair.
I also enjoy traveling a lot. So.
Good.
Yeah, I really enjoy athletics and sports and just staying active and things like that. I also I love reading. When I was younger, I hated reading, so for you kids out there that don't like reading yet, maybe one day you'll start to enjoy it. Anytime I can sit down and drink some coffee and read a book, I always enjoy doing that. And also, my older brother, he is big into theater, and he's actually in New York and works on Broadway and everything, so I also enjoy, looking into different things in the arts and everything, and I think that's always just cool to study, and there's, there can be so much there to discover, and so, yeah, I enjoy those.
Great. Another practical question, which I'm discovering with these young fellas. What is your favorite food?
I like Italian.
Italian food? Yes.
I like bratwurst. Yeah, I love bratwurst.
Yeah, he can't help it because he's from down there at Fort Branch, which is close by a famous place for making bratwurst. Daywig Meats. They got the bratwurst down there, and so he grew up on those things. I know that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Daywig's brats, they're probably my favorite.
So yeah, no advertisement here for any of that stuff, but just in case you all want to know what these guys want to eat, because I can't feed these guys. I can't cook, and the best thing I can do is like make boiled eggs or something. It's about it for me. So anyway,
He makes good coffee.
I can make coffee.
Good
That's
coffee.
right. Yeah, I can do that. So it's good. We've enjoyed though actually, and Father Simon agreed as well that he comes over and we have meals together. I've had more meals at the table in the last probably 12 days than I have for a long time, and I'm really grateful to have these guys with us, because it would be it's a hard enough time anyway right now, but it's a lot better having a couple young guys around to share life with, and meals and prayer. So it's really been a great blessing. In God's providence, He must have known that we needed each other and all that. So maybe another thing we wrote down is just a fun fact about each one of you. If you could share any of that, that would be kind of nice. I'll let you think about that. Go ahead.
I went on the Camino de Santiago in Spain 4 years ago. It was a really good time. I went with a group from Seminarian, and we walked the Camino to the Cathedral of St. James, and where he's buried, and got the indulgence from doing that. And it was just a neat first time overseas, so that was a neat experience.
Nice. My fun fact is, this is usually my go-to, is specifically my brothers, but my whole family, we like to collect coffee mugs. So yeah, we got a little collection going, and I've been, I also enjoy traveling, so I've been blessed to be able to get a coffee mug from the Holy Land. I spent some time in Poland, got one there, and then in Guatemala, I've got a couple mugs from Guatemala, and we have a lot of other places we've been in the States and everything where we're collecting coffee mugs. But yeah, I really enjoy that. Enjoy coffee too. So
Yeah, drinking a lot of coffee.
yeah.
Very good. Someone did ask a question. Appreciate that. The question was, what can lay people do to help encourage the vocations to the priesthood? Good question.
Wow.
You guys want to tackle that a little bit?
I might need a second to think. But
I'd like to.
yeah.
For myself, I would say that the greatest thing that lay people can do to encourage vocations is to live their own vocation really well. Like what I found, and in my own life, and I don't need, it's not about me, talking about my own vocation story, that could be for another time, but when people ask me who inspired me the most to want to be a priest, it's my parents. So, and other people in my life, other than priests, and priests inspired me as well. I had some great priests, but for me, it was my parents, and I would say that even being a priest now for 21 years, that the people who inspire me the most are not priests. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm not around priests that much. And the people who inspire me the most are actually lay people, who are particularly married people, who are living their vocation so wonderfully, as well as single people. That some of the most important people in my life were people who were single. Some of my teachers I can remember, they were single people who lived that out in an incredible way. So never underestimate that.
Yeah. That's good.
Nick, you can correct me, but because this is from John Paul II, but calling the family the domestic church. I think we can, especially right now, kind of give witness to that as we're having our altars in our homes, watching Mass through Facebook Live for Holy Week and for the next couple weeks at least. I would just encourage you to continue keeping up that prayer life with your family. John Paul said the domestic church, that's where you first introduce the life of the church or the sacraments to your children. So that's going to be the first place that maybe that spark of that vocation is begun. So, this is a perfect opportunity now, even more to reinforce that it's in the household at the beginning, maybe before you even start going to church, where that vocation might come to be realized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of bounce off both those. I'd say, like Father was saying, just anybody who lives a virtuous or holy life is just contagious and inspires you to want to live that same life. And another thing I would say is, I know it can be even scary as parents to think about one of your kids having a potential vocation towards a religious life or priesthood. And I can kind of remember telling my mom for the first time that this was something that I was considering, and she was, at first she didn't know what to think. She was kind of scared about what that meant, that I was thinking about priesthood. But to be able to, in the same way that a priest or a seminarian has to try to trust in the Lord and discern or consider what God's calling them towards, like it's the same thing for parents. They're those first people that are witnesses to their children about. You really have to ask the Lord, or you really have to pray to the Lord about what He's calling you to do with your life. So even being a parent who is willing to trust in the Lord with what He's calling their kids to do is extremely powerful witness to your children, and to have the courage to be able to show your children what that means to to really call upon the Lord and ask Him what He's asking of you.
Good. Yeah, that's a great topic. I'm glad that someone asked that, because all of us are in the business of promoting vocations. We say that we're trying to build a culture of vocations, and I really believe that. I really believe that a parish together is doing that, and everybody kind of sees their own role in that it's very important. I mean, we're blessed here to have Catholic schools. I think that's a big part of vocational discernment and planting a lot of seeds. But the reality is that that's only so strong as well. Going to a Catholic school is a great thing, a great gift. I actually didn't go to Catholic schools until I went to the seminary, but I was blessed to have very strong family and very strong parish. So all those things are possible, I think, and all those things work together. However, or wherever one goes to school, one's family life is always going to be very important. So we can just never underestimate that. Whether that's our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, family, friends, all of us we're constantly promoting vocations, and we should see it that way and encourage people to consider that. So I hope all of you will think about that, and especially those of you who have younger children, to start praying about that with them and helping them to consider that what God's calling them to do is very important. So this is just a little introduction tonight. More than anything, really wanted you to meet these two young men and see their faces and a little bit about them. Like I said, I think it's good to know the humanity of guys. As I gave a talk one time about having a vocation to the priesthood, and I said that when I was young, I never really got to know the humanity of a priest. And I had a lot of respect for priests. I had a really fine pastor when I was a young man and started serving Mass. I loved him. His name was Father John Finus, a real inspiration. But I never really knew the humanity of him. He was an older man, so perhaps we never really thought about that. But I think it's nice to know that people are humans. They come from families. As I say, you don't just drop down out of heaven with a collar on. That sounds kind of funny, but there's some truth in that. Like, a man becomes a man and a priest, in an ordinary way, just like all other human beings have to grow into who they become. The same thing is true with these two young men. And I think it's good for young people to know that they're real humans, and they're fully aware of that. And they have their strengths and their weaknesses and everything else like everybody else. So it's just nice to be able to experience that, and I hope that you'll get to experience that with them and your families once we're able to get outside of our homes and actually be with each other. Hopefully you'll have a chance for them to maybe even come to your house and you can invite them over to experience your life a little bit. So thank you for spending this time with us, though. This week we're hoping to share some things and hopefully some inspirations for all of you during your Holy Week. But we want to wish you God's blessings tonight and through this Holy Week. So thanks again for sharing this time with us. Have a great evening.